Hello everyone, I'm JG and welcome back to Music Forever, where today we're reviewing the new album from Macklemore, Gemini. So, folks, yeah, this is the second studio album, or the second solo studio album from Macklemore. Technically his fourth studio album that he's ever put out. However, the last two of those studio albums happen to be in collaboration with producer Ryan Lewis. In fact, those are probably the albums that you're most familiar with, given that the first of those two albums, The Heist, that was released back in, I believe it was 2012, if not 2013, if my memory serves me correctly. That album had a lot of success. If you remember correctly, songs like Thrift Shop, Can't Hold Us, Same Love, those tracks were just everywhere during those couple of years, 2012, 2013, once again, if my memory serves me correctly. That album was pretty big. It made Macklemore kind of a household name, along with Ryan Lewis, of course, his producer at the time. They had a follow-up album that was released last year. I did listen to it, didn't care for it all too much. And really his first album in collaboration with Ryan Lewis, The Heist, I think it's a solid kind of album. I don't think it's the greatest thing ever, but it's solid enough. It's understandable why it was the success that it was. But coming on to this album here, Macklemore's kind of second studio album on his own, but really like his third studio album, I guess, coming off of the success of The Heist. What exactly is there to expect? It's not like I follow this guy extensively, really. I just thought, hey, maybe there's something worth listening to here on this project, considering I liked a couple of his tracks that he's put out in the past. But overall, I'd have to say, yeah, this album, it's not too good. When it comes to making an album, the first track is arguably one of the most important things, on your album. It's the first piece that your audience really gets of this project as a whole. And depending on how good your opening song is going to determine whether or not the listener oftentimes decides to stick around or leave. And that's, the first mistake that this album really makes with its opening song. The track is called Ain't Gonna Die Tonight, and it just starts off immediately with the guest feature vocalist, I forgot his name, but his part is just like immediately comes in, and just immediately it's like painful to the ear almost. He's almost like screaming, I guess, his vocals here, and it's just over this very, like, barely any instrumentation. It just comes in really fast, and it's really, like, painful. When your album, the first thing on your album, like literally the first few seconds of the album, make me want to turn the album off, you've messed up with your album, because if I turn it off after the first few seconds of the first song, I'm not gonna get to hear the rest of the album, regardless of how good it may possibly be. And it's really just a sign of things to come here on this track with the opening just part here, which is almost ear grating. It's not good at all. And the rest of the hook, when it's repeated later on in the track over more instrumentation and when it's more naturally kind of put into the song, it's not nearly as bad, even though it really is like the same sort of screechy kind of screamed vocals. But yeah, at the opening of the track, that's where it's at its worst in my opinion. But the thing is, Macklemore's rapping on this track, the opening track, it's decent, to be honest. It's passable, it's nothing bad or anything. It doesn't make me want to like turn off the song or anything. So really, it's just the guest feature here, especially at the beginning, that ruins this track and kind of right off the bat ruins the momentum of this album. Though there's not really too much that this album doesn't really pick it up from there on out. Honestly, this album, another big complaint about it is that it's kind of inconsistent with what it wants to be. At times, Macklemore kind of feels like he's going for his maybe more lyrical, more conscious hip hop kind of sound that he had on some of his previous songs over the years. At other times, he feels more like he wants to be a more fun trap rapper, really. And the thing is that it's not really integrated all that well here on this album. Like, it's possible to have trap more fun beats and integrate more lyrical messages, just not really here on this album. He doesn't quite get it right. You know what I'm saying? The second track that we get here on this album, Glorious, that features Skylar Grey, is just a typical Skylar Grey feature hip hop song. And if you might know what I mean by that if you ever heard a song that really features Skylar Grey on it. Nothing against her, but all the songs that she's featured on for some reason just sound really similar to me when I listen to them, and this track is no exception. By no means is it like a bad track, I guess you could say. Like it's not like painful to listen to, but it's not particularly interesting. But then we get the track 3, and oh my goodness, track 3, Marmalade, which features Lil Yachty. First off the bat, I'm not a Lil Yachty fan by any means, so I already wasn't looking forward to listening to this track. But then the track comes on, and I'm thinking to myself, have I heard this song before? Like, have I just heard someone playing it around, maybe at my school or something, and I'm just remembering it? Because this track sounded really familiar to me, like, at first listen. Then I saw on Twitter, I believe it was Anthony Fantano, the Needle Drop, as you might know him as, tweeting out, like, why, this song, he was pretty much saying that the song is a complete ripoff of the song Broccoli by rapper Dram, who, if you've been following my channel, you might realize from my Gorillaz Humans album review a few months back, which had a track that featured Dram on it, I said I wasn't familiar with who he was, or something along those lines. And after saying that, I decided to check him out briefly. I heard his biggest hit, Broccoli, of course, which is the song in question here. And the thing is, like, yeah, I definitely have to agree with Anthony Fantano here, because this track literally is like a carbon copy of Broccoli. Just like, it's more than just like a few similarities here and there. Like, literally, these two songs are almost identical in many regards. Just the beat of the songs both have the same sort of happy, upbeat sound that have like these keyboard parts going throughout. Just the way the keyboard kind of is played is almost exactly the same. Both tracks also feature Lil Yachty. I mean, I don't understand how the guy got on both these tracks, not even realizing that they were practically like the same thing. The only difference is that here on this song on Macklemore's track, Marmalade, he doesn't have any, cringy bad lines about Columbine or whatever he said back on the Broccoli track. But, to be honest, like, this track is a complete ripoff, but, like, it still happens to be, in my opinion, one of the more enjoyable tracks on the album. And that's not a really good thing for your album when one of the more enjoyable songs is, like, a ripoff of another existing song. Even Lil Yachty here on this track just sounds like not bad necessarily, at least not bad for what I would expect from him. Not to say that I particularly enjoy what he does here, but, like, it's just so... It would have been one of the better tracks had it not been, like, a carbon copy of Broccoli, which is the real frustrating part. In a similar vein to Marmalade, there's a lot of other, like I said before, like, more party-like, trap-leaning tracks here on this album that I feel like were just kind of meant to be, more party-like songs, things of that sort. Take, for example, a track Willy Wonka, which is just this really ridiculous song where I guess he's kind of comparing himself to Willy Wonka, even though, I guess you can understand where he's coming from in the sense that Willy Wonka, like, the fictional character, is kind of successful, but, like, that's really it. So, it's kind of weird. And the track just also has this really, really bad hook. I don't even recommend you listen to it. And then you have the track How to Play the Flute. And I'm going to be completely honest with you with this track. The hook on this song is someone sneezing, and then Macklemore saying, God bless you. Like, repeatedly this happens. Like, someone sneezes, he says, God bless you, and repeat that, like, however many times, and that's the hook of this song. The first time I heard this, when listening through the album, I actually just started laughing out loud. I couldn't believe that what I was hearing. I couldn't believe that this was actually on a song that someone put on an album, like an artist that was like actually like, somewhat legit in terms of like having fan base, having success in the past, and this was like on their album. My goodness, it's just someone sneezing and then him saying God bless you over and over again. It's so ridiculous. It's like, even if there's some sort of message behind it or something, the fact that it's so ridiculous sucks you out of whatever message might be there and makes you say to yourself, what am I listening to? Who made this? Why? That track aside, you move further into the track listing, and then you have the track Cornerstone. I once again kind of want to reference the Needle Drop and actually his review of this album. I usually don't watch reviews of albums I'm going to review before reviewing them, but I wasn't 100% sure I was actually going to review this thing. So I watched it anyway. He happened to mention that one of the guest featured rappers on this track sounds exactly like Chance the Rapper, and he does. Like, literally, there's wearing your influences on your sleeve, and then there's taking who you're inspired by, kidnapping them, cutting them open, removing their insides, and then wearing their skin as like one of those, jumpsuits that people wear for Halloween, like the colorful ones. And that's pretty much what this guy is doing here, because he sounds literally like a Chance the Rapper ripoff, and like, if it's just, once again, the whole ripoff thing, going back to Marmalade from before, I just feel like there's so many aspects of this album that I've heard before in other places. And this guy's voice, once again, he just sounds like Chance the Rapper. The way he delivers lines sounds like Chance the Rapper. And, like, could Macklemore not get actually Chance the Rapper on his album? I mean, Macklemore, Thrift Shop was a pretty big song back when it was released. As well as some of the other hits from that album. I find it hard to believe that he couldn't get Chance the Rapper on his album if he wanted to, unless there was some like other reason that doesn't have to do with actually getting him on, that they couldn't have him on the album, so he got this like bootleg knockoff Chance the Rapper instead. it's just, like, I don't mind Chance the Rapper, but like when it's not actually Chance the Rapper, I'm just left wondering, like, is it okay to think that this is like all right? And the song itself isn't anything special either. Like, even if it was Chance the Rapper actually featured on the track, it wouldn't be all that great. It's just average in my opinion. There's also tracks that go into more detail about Macklemore's own personal life on this album. Not really the party or trappier sounds. Really more of the deep introspective, I guess you could say, Macklemore that you would expect kind of based on some of his previous works. And the thing is here, some of the stuff that he says just isn't particularly interesting. Like, lots of times it's just average or kind of lacks a point. There's one track I forgot the name of at the moment, but it's pretty much just him listing off things that he wants to do, but he doesn't do either because of like laziness or like other things like that. Just the desire not to do them. Like he'd say something, for example, like I want to volunteer my time, but I'm too busy watching TV or something like that. That's not actually a line in the song, but it could have been or something along those lines. And that's pretty much what the entire song is. He lists off things that he wants to do, but doesn't for whatever reason. And like, I definitely understand where he's coming from, like talking about how people are like lazy or just unwilling to change to better themselves. But the thing is, he never really gets to that point in the song. Like, he really just lists stuff out. He doesn't really deliver the point or hammer it home really, which kind of is missing from the track. And as a result, it doesn't really work out quite as well. And just there's a lot of other tracks here on the album that kind of similarly, like, they have a message to them. And I don't necessarily think the message is bad, but it just doesn't exactly do much for me, to be honest. However, if I had to be completely fair with you, I'd much prefer a full album of these, more introspective yet kind of dull tracks compared to some of the more upbeat kind of party type tracks like Willy Wonka or the Sneeze track, as I'm just going to call it now, because I can't take those songs anymore. I'm not going back to listen to those songs ever again. Just kind of case in point as to the more introspective tracks being better here. The last 3 tracks on the album I think are actually the strongest 3 on the project, and the fact that they all come right in a row is kind of a nice, strong way to close out the album, at least in retrospect or in comparison to the rest of this album. Once again, the lyrics aren't exactly super deep or moving, like, compared to, like, some other groups or artists out there. But, in the context of this album, I think they work rather well, and they are, they do have their moments, to be honest. And it's just a shame that you have to wait till the last 3 tracks on this, like, a rather lengthy, like an hour-long project to really get something, I guess, that's worth coming back to some degree. I'm not going to say that I'd definitely be coming back to these songs, but if I was going to be coming back to any songs on the album, it'd be the last 3 for sure, because I thought those were the strongest. So yeah, overall, Gemini by Macklemore, not particularly good, to be honest. Like I said, it's just that this album, it's a bit all over the place. The party songs are a bit too crazy and corny. The more introspective songs aren't super interesting or insightful. And the thing is, I also just kind of feel like Macklemore kind of has lost, the interesting thing about him that made him, worth paying attention to in the first place. Because, like, back when Thrift Shop and Same Love and those tracks were released, they had something about them that made them different from what was popular at the time. Of course, like, Thrift Shop being about, going to a thrift shop and, not spending a ton of money, like, compared to what most other rappers, typically say. That was something different, but it still kind of had that fun atmosphere to it, and that's what drew a lot of people into Macklemore. And of course, Same Love kind of being an anthem, kind of getting behind the whole concept of gay rights, gay marriage, that sort. It kind of made sense that lots of people at the time, especially in hip-hop music, a culture where that isn't, or that hasn't been super opening to those kind of things, why people would kind of get behind that, especially coming from a hip-hop artist. And those tracks made Macklemore a bit of a success at the time, more than a bit of a success, to be honest. They gave him a lot of personality, and I could see why people liked the guy a ton. But here on this project, like, there's no moments like that. There's no tracks here that really kind of define Macklemore as kind of being an interesting personality. There's no, like, going to the thrift shop Macklemore on this project, and that's just kind of frustrating. Like, I just feel like the thing is, he lacks so much personality here on these tracks. I literally feel like it could have been anyone on these songs, and it would have still worked. And kind of going back to that concept of it could have been anyone, just for future reference, probably not a good idea to rip off other songs on your album. Like I said, Marmalade, probably one of the more enjoyable tracks on this project, but it's like a complete rip-off of another song, which makes it difficult to enjoy. And of course, the Chance the Rapper thing I was talking about before. So yeah, this project overall, if you're a hardcore Macklemore fan, I guess check it out. But besides that, there's really no reason to check this out, to be honest. I don't think I'm going to be coming back to it anytime soon. Overall, I don't think it's all too great of a project, but, that's just my own opinion. If you like it, leave your opinion down in the comment section below. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future album reviews. Thanks for watching, guys, and stay golden.